All right. Well, today is January 13th. I have finished my first day back in classes on campus. Went really well, although I have a little bit of a sore throat today. Wife has been sick for nearly a month, and it looks like it's finally catching up with me a little bit. But anyway, no, school went really well, and I enjoyed going up there. It was nice to be on campus again. I'm actually really impressed with both of my professors and looking forward to how the semester is going to go. Not much more than that, mostly just covering syllabus and stuff like that. So when thinking about what I wanted to cover today, sometimes the news just drops stuff into your lap. And again, I'm trying not to be political on this. And what I mean by that is that I don't want to talk necessarily about American politics, which, includes Trump, Kamala Harris, Biden, the elections, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, there are other topics that often get lumped together with the concept of being political, but they're not really. They're human existence questions. They're cultural questions. They're topics that I think don't have enough time being spoken about out loud, and we need to do more of that. So I'm going to talk about one of those things today that's actually coming at us from a couple different directions, and it leads for a lot of discussion. And I'm going to try to keep it short because I know that these longer videos don't do very well. But today, Scott Adams died. Now, if you're not familiar with Scott Adams is the, let me bring up some images here real quick for you. This is Scott Adams right here. Scott Adams created Dilbert. Now, Dilbert is a cartoon. It's generally a newspaper syndicated cartoon that you've probably seen over the years. There was a cartoon as well on TV. There's been different types of publications in which Dilbert's character was portrayed. Now, Scott Adams, who is the person that wrote Dilbert, he got himself into some trouble a few different times, actually, over the years. And he's not the only one that's done that. The other person that is, I think, pretty well known for that is J.K. Rowling, from Harry Potter status. These people that are in the pop culture realm, artistic realm, content creators oftentimes fall into this category as well. They'll make comments that on their surface, or even deep down when you look into them, are very controversial. They can be construed as racist, transphobic, culturist, ageist, ableist, you name it. You can ascribe some form of prejudice to the things that they say. Now, going back to this screen here, he made several comments actually over the years. He called Black people a hate group in response to a polling that was done by Rasmussen, which is also, by the way, a heavily right-leaning poll group, that asked the question: Is it okay to be white, or do people believe that it's okay to be white? And 47% of Black respondents disagreed. Right. His response to that was that he called Black people a hate group and said that Black people or white people should avoid Black people. Again, here it is right here. Get the hell away from Black people. And then he would no longer help Black Americans. He has said that he has been unfairly, or he's dead now, but he had said prior to that he was unfairly fired for a number of publications for the comments that he made. And obviously J.K. Rowling is well known for her stance, mostly on trans athletes. However, she's doubled down on a lot of that, I think, in response to the outrage that she's gotten from people across the whole spectrum as far as her public stance on opportunities for trans people. Now, their controversies are not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is how we as a society deal with people that are content creators, whether mass media content, social media content, in this case, publications and newspapers for this guy, or for J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter and all of the wizarding world, which covers video games, television now, movies, books. It's across the board. And that IP in and of itself eclipses Dilbert 1,000-fold, right? So my question that I always have, in a debate that I have with people quite often, philosophical debate. Again, this is not a political debate. This is a philosophical concept. Is at what point should we, and at what point is it still permissible to separate the creator from the content? Now, what I mean by that is I'm a little older, so when Harry Potter first came out, I was already an adult. The middle to later Harry Potter books were while my children were little. My wife, however, she's a little bit younger than me. She was kind of coming to age. She was ahead of Harry Potter, but she was coming to age as those books were starting to take hold. So her later teen years into adulthood, Harry Potter was prevalent. And J.K. Rowling comes out transphobic, or if nothing else, if I was going to be, completely giving her the benefit of the doubt, she's specifically against trans people in athletics. Okay, so let's giving her that level. Although obviously a lot of people believe that she's completely transphobic, and that may be true. I've never had a conversation with her. I only can go by the things that I've seen and read. But regardless, let's assume the worst. Even if she's fully transphobic and just hateful and wishes nothing but the worst for those people, those comments, that stance didn't come out for many years after Harry Potter was already a cultural phenomenon. After people have had, many people, younger people, boys, girls, men, women, all walks of life have incorporated the concept of the wizarding world through books, video games, movies, and now television into their personal love story with content or with media or with fantasy or however it is. So when she makes those remarks, a lot of people who may feel very strongly about the topic at hand face a dilemma. Do they say to themselves, Harry Potter as a character, as a wizarding world, is more important to me than the content of the comments that J.K. Rowling makes? Or do they say, those comments are deplorable. I don't believe what she said. I believe that her statement has hurt many, many people and people that love many, many people. And because of that, it has now eroded my love for this character who may or may not have been a part of their lives for a long period of time. That's the philosophical question we have to ask ourselves. Now, I'm not trying to connect Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, with J.K. Rowling, who created Harry Potter. Obviously, they're wholly different levels of fandom. As a matter of fact, I can't think of ever once meeting anybody who was a huge Dilbert fan. I read the comics when I was younger in newspapers, back when I still read, Sunday morning comics in newspaper, like, Family Circus and stuff like that. But his character was around for a number of years. I believe, if memory serves, something like 40 years or close to 40 years, that character had been being produced and in publications. Thousands of newspapers carried that every week. So if you're somebody that grew up as a fan of Dilbert, or you're somebody that grew up as a fan of Harry Potter, how do you handle that? How do you handle, like, for example, a while back during the Me Too movement, a number of actors, movie producers, directors became blackballed for things that they did sometimes as many as 15 or 20 years ago that were not necessarily indicative of their character at that time, but rather a behavior that they had many years ago. And I don't want to name anybody by name because a lot of that is still conjecture. But it happened to a number of people that either made statements or there were anecdotal stories of poor behavior. And all of a sudden, the content that they created years ago, their appearances in movies or interviews that they've given, books that they've written, movies that they've directed, whatever the case may be, suddenly become almost taboo to watch. It taints it. I don't have an answer to these questions, by the way. These are questions or topics that I've debated with my wife, with friends, family, in school. Being a philosophy major, we talk about things like this, especially in clubs. But I point it to you. If you come across this video, comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are in this. Now, I can tell you my personal stance. And again, this is not the answer to the question. There is no, I don't know if these things ever have a right or wrong. It's always subjective. There's no real objective response to these questions. But I'm going to answer the Harry Potter one specifically again, because I'm not a Dilbert fan. So to talk about Dilbert would be remiss of me. But to talk about Harry Potter, I own a lot of Harry Potter stuff. I have seen every movie in the theaters, even when my kids were little. I made sure Chamber of Secrets on, for Philosopher's Stone on, Sorcerer's Stone, I guess in America, Philosopher's Stone in the UK. All the movies in theaters. I've read all the books more than once. I have played pretty much every game I could get my hands on, from Lego games to the Hogwarts game, which is incredible, by the way. And I can't wait to play through again at some point in time. In fact, my wife is actively playing through it again right now. I've been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at both the Universal Parks in Florida. I have not been to the new one yet, which is focusing on the Ministry of Magic. I own probably 20 wands. I own all of the Horcruxes, props, obviously. I own all the Horcruxes. I've bought a Dementor's mask. I've 3D printed my own Dementor masks. I have the Marauders map. I have a Firebolt wand or broom hanging on my wall. I have the Gryffindor sword hanging on my wall. Which all of that, by the way, if you're one of these people that judges grown adults for collecting childish stuff like that, so sorry, judge me away, because whatever your opinion is probably right. So I have a hard time, even in lieu of her comments, separating my love of Harry Potter from my disdain of her character. And maybe you do too. Maybe you don't. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on that. I honestly don't know the question. So the beauty of philosophy is sometimes philosophy is just about discussing the topic and never actually having an answer. But I think it's an important thing, because the reason why I like to talk about it and bring it up is because we see a lot of times the more angry people get more of the bandwidth. The more hostile somebody is about the situation at hand, the more energy they get. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, as it were. And that seems to have been the case specifically with J.K. Rowling. She still has a fervent number of detractors publicly out there for the comments that she's made. And some of the Harry Potter actors from the movies have stood by her very publicly, and then some have separated themselves from her very publicly. And I find that also to be fascinating, because of the effect it may have on their careers. And they often know her personally, which changes that dynamic quite dramatically. But for me, I've stuck with Harry Potter. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how I would be if she created new content. I don't think she would at this point. I think that world has been built and done. She had very little to do with The Cursed Child, which is the play on Broadway. And she's, I guess, fairly segregated from the new television show that Amazon is putting out. So my assumption is that she won't revisit that world now. And she also has more money than she could ever spend in her life. So now will she find some new IP to address? Then the question is, okay, now I know who J.K. Rowling is, at least publicly facing, I know who J.K. Rowling is. Then it would be easier for me to say, you know what, I'm not going to consume this content. I don't believe in the things that she believes in, and I'm not going to revisit that. But then there's legacy questions. With Scott Adams, with his passing, how are people going to look at Dilbert into the future now? How are people going to look at Dilbert 20 years from now? Because that character is iconic. We still talk about characters in comics from 100 years ago, and obviously all of those authors have all passed, but we still talk about the characters. Will we talk about this character in 20 or 30 years? I don't know. So anyway, that's what I got for you today. Quick and short. I am exhausted. I got a sore throat. I'm kind of sick. I'm going to go to bed pretty early tonight, but I'll be back tomorrow. My name is Christopher Hess. Hey, as I've said quite recently and quite often, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to help me grow this channel, please click the subscribe button. Follow if you follow me on TikTok. Follow if you follow me on Facebook. Like my page. Make sure you click that notifications bell as well. That helps me get seen in front of more people. I know a lot of my close friends are watching my videos, but I'm not sure how many of you guys are subscribed. And anybody that's coming across, I know a couple of my videos have picked up some new people. So if you're finding this and you like what I'm doing and you want to watch as I try to grow this thing, being subscribed is the best way to help me out. And I appreciate that. So again, my name is Christopher Hess. I will see you tomorrow with another video, and who knows what topic that's going to be.